Hello, everyone, once again. My name is Aisha Uri Agarwal, and I am a ISSA certified personal trainer and nutritionist. I run a company called Get Fit with Aisha, and I want to firstly thank Collegey for inviting me to speak on this topic and at the Impact Summit. I'm extremely excited to speak about how mental health and physical health is intertwined and vice versa. Why? Because firstly, I feel that it is very important to broaden our understanding of what physical health actually means. And secondly, understand the complex relationship between our mind and our bodies, right? You can stay on this presentation for a while. So while I want to, so to start off with, I want you to understand that the mind and the brain are not synonymous, which means it's not the same thing. Our mind instead is full of various mental states, right? Mental states like thoughts, emotions, beliefs, feelings, attitudes, images, right? And our brain is just the hardware through which we experience all these mental states, right? So it is every mental state. For example, the state of being anxious has a physiological response. You can stay on the previous slide. I'll tell you when to change. Yeah. So every mental state that you might be in, let's stay on the second slide, the relationship slide, because that's what I'm talking about, right? So your mind consists of many mental states. I've mentioned it could be, you could be in a state of anxiousness, panic, fear. You could have various thoughts, beliefs that these are all names of mental states. And your brain is just the hardware through which you are experiencing all these states. Each mental state has a physiological response associated with it, which means that there is either a positive or a negative impact in your physical body, okay, based on the mental state that you might be in, right? So for example, a state of being anxious releases a hormone in our body called cortisol, which is, let's call it the stress hormone from here on, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this before, right? So when cortisol gets released in our body, we are under stress, and what tends to happen is that we act based on this reaction. We take an action, okay? And if this action is a negative action, for example, we often tend to stress eat or emotionally. There are various terms for these things. We adults move on to consumption of alcohol. There's drugs, there's smoking. These are all various actions that we take to curb and to control our stress levels, which is only happening because of this chemical reaction which is happening in our body due to the mental state that we are in. All right, are you following me? Can I see a nod? Yeah. All right. So like I've mentioned, there can be a negative action. I'm going to talk a lot about reaction, the chemical reaction happening inside the body, and the action that we take, right? So this action that we are taking can either be a positive one or a negative one, which only depends on it only depends on ourselves, right? Now, when I talk about exercising and any kind of movement or playing a sport, it is nothing but a positive action that you take to control your it's a positive way of acting on this internal stuff that is going on in your body, right? This is, sometimes we don't have control over being over what's happening inside our body, but what we have control over is how we act upon it, right? Now, moving on to the next slide. I When I started off, I told you that I want you to understand what physical health actually means, right? Like the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word physical health, you think of a fit body. But that's not what it means. There are various parameters associated with being healthy, okay? And obviously, number one being in this case would be, and this is not a ranking, this will just come in random order, but eating healthy. You need to eat healthy. The food that we consume has a very, very strong impact on how we feel mentally as well as physically. And I'm going to talk about this a little more in the next slide. The next parameter is obviously physical exercise, right? So here I want to speak for a minute. When you exercise and when you do any kind of movement, there is a release of endorphins, okay? And I'm going to sort of try and personify endorphins into an army that we are building in ourselves to fight with the stress hormone, which is cortisol, right? So you have to, when you do any kind of movement, when you do any kind of physical activity, there is a release of endorphins, which we can call as the happy hormones, and they fight with the cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So it's a great way to deal with stressful situations. Whenever you are in a bad mood, or if you're tired of studying and you need a break, it's a great way to sort of, move out of that state of inertia and get, go outside, play a sport, do some kind of activity and get a release of those endorphins, and you'll automatically feel happier, you'll be in a better mood. And obviously exercise has a lot more other benefits. The third parameter, which obviously has a major impact on our physical health, is quality sleep, right? So you need to sleep well, you need to sleep for a minimum of 7 to 8 hours a day to be in a good solid state of health, right? And obviously all these parameters don't happen by itself, we all have to balance it together. And all this only happens when you are in a good state of mind, right? You're in a happy state of mind, you'll sleep better, you'll be more conscious of what you're eating, you'll obviously be able to exercise better. But all this, we all have to balance it. And can you just click the next just click again, yeah. So basically all these parameters come into play together to have a healthy happy body, right? Healthy happy body and mind, for that matter. So understanding physical health through this slide, I want you to understand that there are various parameters that come into play, and we all have to balance it together to actually be in a healthy state of mind and body. Moving on. So here I'm going to be talking a little bit. We spoke about the chemical reaction that's happening inside our body and the action that we are taking. So I'm not going to completely say that the reaction that is happening in our body is involuntary, because there are various ways that you can control your stress levels. You can meditate, and there are various mindful activities that you can do to curb the release of your stress hormone. But often we are under situations which are stress provoking, right? Like, for example, you have an exam and you haven't finished your syllabus. It is a stressful situation. You have an exam at 10 a.m. in the morning. A major chunk of your syllabus is pending. It's something that is out of our control, and often you'll come in your life, you'll meet certain people or be in certain situations that are stressful, and you just can't help it, right? But you can obviously you can for sure have a strong control over the action that you're taking, right? So I'm going to be talking about certain, like, basically your reactions are involuntary in nature, but your actions are voluntary, right? And this is where you can take some positive actions, which is not just exercising, but drinking more water, moving for at least 10 minutes every hour. If your daily work or studies require you to sit in front of the laptop for a longer duration, it is very important that you get up, walk for 10 minutes, and then come back and continue. You should keep a big bottle of water next to you. This is a 2-liter water bottle. Just sip on it. These are just practices that you can include, simple things that you can include in your daily life. And so this water really helps control our stress levels. Movement, even if it's just for 10 minutes every hour, really helps control those stress hormones, right? And so what I'm trying to say here is that often you might be in a situation which is stressful, so you are in a mental state which is provoking anxiousness or panic or fear and various other things that are happening in your mind. But if you do take positive actions to control it, you'll again, it's like a cycle, you'll again come to a place where you're feeling calmer, you'll be able to focus more, you'll be able to divide your time and be more efficient at studying, right? So your mind will be at a better state if you do certain actions which are positive in nature. All right, now moving on, I also wanted to talk a little bit about how uh, being in an anxious state of mind or any other disturbing whether you're stressed or anxious or any other disturbing mental health issue, there can be various physical symptoms that you might feel, right? The first symptom that people tend to feel is tiredness. You just don't feel like waking up, you just feel fatigued, you have constant headaches, there's pain in your joints, your tummy is not doing too well, you're not being able to digest food easily. A lot of people who are stressed and anxious sweat a lot, they have cramps, your jaw and teeth line feel painful, you always feel like clenching your teeth, your shoulders are tensed and rock solid, and they're bitten and sore fingers. So obviously there is a strong relationship between what's happening up here in our mind, in our mental, what the mental state that we are in, and our physical body, because obviously the symptoms that we might be facing are physical in nature, right? Similarly, next slide, please. Similarly, if you are, facing any physical issue, there might be certain changes in your mood and behavior that might act as symptoms. You might be sleeping too much or getting trouble sleeping. You might be finding it difficult to focus for a longer period of time. You might have see changes in your appetite. Either you're eating too less or you're overeating. You don't feel like going out, you don't feel like meeting your friends. Staying at home feels like like a safer situation. So these are just changes in your mood and behavior, and you might feel like, I wasn't like this earlier, I don't know why this is happening. You might be irritable, or lose your temper very often. So these are just some changes in our mood and behavior that might actually be symptoms of an underlying physical or even a mental health issue. So why I wanted to list this down is so that if you are facing any of these physical symptoms or changes in your mood and behavior, and if you've seen a pattern, then it is time that you speak to someone about it. It is time that you do something about it. How for a simple headache we just go open our drawers and take a Disprin, or go to our parents and ask for, I have a headache, I need a medicine. Sometimes there might not be a medicine for how you're feeling. So it's important to go out there and get the right help. Maybe speak to a friend or your parent about, this is something that I've noticed in my mood or behavior, and it's been a chronic thing. It's not been changing. It's very important to speak to the right people. Next slide, please. So here I also want to, obviously now that I've spoken about so many symptoms and issues, here are some ways that can help you take care of your physical body and your mental body. The first obviously being exercise. It is my go-to mantra, my go-to thing whenever I'm feeling stressed, or sometimes I feel like, I'm not in control of the situation. What do I do? The first thing I do is exercise, because I feel like it automatically helps those endorphins get released, and I'm in a happier mood to even deal with what's to come next. Food. So food is extremely important. The example that I gave, that let's say that you have an exam tomorrow morning and you haven't finished your syllabus. Often what we tend to do is stress eat. We'll open a packet of chips, there's Nutella, there's Coke, people stick to coffee. But if you are a little more conscious of what you're consuming during that stressful situation, you'll see a drastic change in your concentration levels. You'll be able to focus better and obviously tackle the main hurdle of finishing your syllabus and then giving your exam. So if you include things like nuts to munch on, and have a vegetable juice instead of a cup of coffee again and again, and sticking to your cold coffee, that'll be a good place to start. Obviously, you guys, everyone should avoid alcohol, absolutely say no to drugs, avoid alcohol to a state like it shouldn't become the outlet to release your stress. You shouldn't see it as a way that, oh, I'm so stressed, and how they show it in the movies, you go and you go to a bar and then you start drinking. So really, really bad things to do. Stay away from alcohol, stay away from drugs, needless to say. Get enough sleep. Mentioned this before, get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. There are a lot of foods that help you sleep better, which are foods which are high in magnesium, and unfortunately those foods are your green leafy vegetables. So not only will you get enough magnesium, but a lot of other vitamins and minerals which will make you feel better. Often if you're low on vitamin D or vitamin B, our moods also sort of become a little low. So it's important that you maybe, if you haven't got a blood test done in the recent past, it's a good idea to get one done. And for some, you can take supplements. For some, it's better to get it from your food. So if you want to get more information about what foods to eat for what issues, get in touch with me. I'll leave my details with Suchita. And the next 2 points, which are basically try relaxation techniques and develop good mental health good mental health practices. So a little more on this. Try relaxation techniques like the ones that we just started with. Sometimes just breathing, inhaling, and holding it for 2 minutes and exhaling can really calm us down. I wanted to start the session with just some breathing because I wanted to get your attention completely for the next 20 minutes on what I'm going to say. So it helps you focus, it gets you back. If you've lost track, it helps you calm down, right? You can always, there are techniques like meditating, yoga that are really helpful. Develop good mental health practices like practice gratitude, keep a journal, listen to positive affirmations every morning that you wake up, look at the time. So this is something that I've just started practicing. And I obviously, this is something that's not come from me. I watched a Sadhguru video, and it said that every time you wake up, look at the time and just smile to yourself and thank God for being alive, for keeping people around you healthy, happy, and just say a thank you to God, by or any higher power that you believe in, that thank you for at least for me to wake up and to see people around me healthy and happy, right? So these are just some good mental health practices, some relaxation techniques that everyone should, and especially during these times, it really helps. And the last one being, which is the most important one, is speak to others if you are facing any of those symptoms that we spoke about earlier. It is important that you speak to an adult. It is important that you speak to an expert, and seek help. There is nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be to just keep it with yourself. It's very important to go out there and get the right kind of uh, help, in terms of who can help you just feel better. It is the most important thing today, to take care of our health, both physically and mentally, and follow these techniques, just these few points listed here. If you manage to even do 4 out of the many that I've listed, I promise that you'll feel better. And for anyone who wants to speak to me one on one, I'm happy to have a chat. I am available on Instagram, on call, on email. So thank you.